What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Kids Talk Sports podcast. And on today's episode, I'm going to be reviewing the college football playoff second round matchups. I'm going to be giving you guys intel on stats, everything like that, breaking down the games. I'm going to be talking about what each team can do to boost their chances to make it to the national championship. So let's get into it. So the first thing we'll start with is the Penn State versus Boise State game that happened on Friday. I don't know. But this was the first game of the second round. Penn State did take the dub, 31-14. I think everyone thought that Penn State was going to win this game. Boise State they didn't have enough athletes to keep up with Penn State's athletes. Drew Aller, quarterback of Penn State, had 171 passing yards and 3 passing touchdowns to go along with Penn State tight end Tyler Warren's 6 receptions for 63 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. He was really key in their dub. But then the running backs, Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, the 2 running backs for Penn State, they were also really huge. They had some key runs and a lot of carries. And then for Boise State, running back for Boise State, Ashton Jeanty, had 30 carries for 104 yards. Kind of a disappointing game in the biggest game of the season for Boise State, but Ashton Jeanty had a great college career. I think he's going to go really far in the NFL. So Penn State takes the dub 31-14, like I think a lot of us expected. Just again, this Boise State team that just didn't have enough athletes to keep with Penn State, and Penn State moves on to the semifinals to face Notre Dame, who we will talk about later in this episode. The second game that we have, this was the closest game of the playoffs so far. The only game decided by 1 possession. And just an interesting fact, all of the teams that had a first round bye all lost in the second round. So Arizona State, Boise State, Georgia, and Oregon all lost. So I think that plays a key, that it kind of shows that you don't really want that first round bye because it's so long of a layover that it kind of just like gets you out of your groove if you just won your conference championship and stuff. So we got Arizona State versus Texas. This was the 5 versus 4. This was the best game of the college football playoffs so far. It was an awesome game. Texas defeated Arizona State 39-31 in double overtime. Cam Skattebo, the running back for Arizona State, had 143 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns to go along with 8 receptions for 99 receiving yards. And then Quinn Ewers for Texas had 322 pass yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and 1 interception, including a clutch 30-yard touchdown in the first overtime to keep Texas's season alive. But I do want to point out the kicker for Texas, Burt Auburn, did have some really he had some 2 bad misses that could have won Texas the game. He had a miss with around a minute 45 seconds to go from about 35 yards. He missed that. Texas then would get us another stop. He had a 30-yarder with 5 seconds left to win the game as time expired, and he missed that one. But fortunately for Arizona State, they couldn't capitalize on those. Texas did come out with the win. But Cam Skattebo had an awesome season. And I know a lot of people, when he said, because him and Ashton Jeanty for Boise State, they were kind of like the 2 best running backs this year. And Cam Skattebo, after that Big 12 championship game against Iowa State, he said, nobody respects the fact that I'm the best running back in the country. And everyone was thinking that he was crazy for saying that. And after this game, I'm going to have to put Cam Skattebo as the best running back in the country over Ashton Jeanty. Cam Skattebo, he is a really underrated player. I think he's the best running back in the country. So Texas defeats Arizona State 39-31 in double overtime. Then for the third game we had, it was the Rose Bowl. This was what I thought, and a lot of people thought would be the best game of the playoff, a rematch against 2 of the best teams in the country that happened earlier in the year. We had number 1 Oregon versus number 8 Ohio State, and Ohio State just absolutely blew the brakes off of Oregon. They were up 34-0 at one point in the first half. Jeremiah Smith, wide receiver for Ohio State, had a crazy game with 7 receptions for 187 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. And his quarterback, Will Howard, the quarterback for Ohio State, helped him out a lot. Will Howard also had a great game with 319 passing yards and 3 passing touchdowns. Travion Henderson, running back for Ohio State, had 2 touchdowns. This whole offense was just rolling for Ohio State, and their defense really, really played well too. Oregon, they really couldn't get anything going. I mean, they did score a little bit to make it look like it wasn't that bad of a game, but Oregon, they lose 41-21. The 1 seed gets knocked out, and Ohio State moves on to play Texas in what is probably going to be an offensive shootout. And then for the last game we have in this first round, we've got Notre Dame versus Georgia. This game got postponed with something that happened in New Orleans. Got rescheduled. Notre Dame did take the dub, 23-10. Georgia's backup quarterback Gunnar Stockton had to play because of an arm injury to Carson Beck. Gunnar Stockton, even though it looked bad, Gunnar Stockton really made some good throws. He had 234 passing yards and 1 passing touchdown. Again, the quarterback for Georgia. It's just the wide receivers for Georgia, Dominic Lovett and Dylan Bell, they were struggling for Georgia. They were dropping some passes. And Georgia's defense played solid. It's just their offense couldn't really get anything going. Their run game, Travis Etienne only had 11 carries for 39 yards. They just couldn't really get anything going. Riley Leonard, the quarterback for Notre Dame, though, had 90 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, and to go along with 80 rushing yards. And a crazy fact here, Notre Dame scored 17 points in 54 seconds. They kicked a field goal with about 40 seconds left in the first half. First play for Georgia, it's a strip fumble. Then Notre Dame recovers it. They get the ball about the 13-yard line. Then Riley Leonard throws a touchdown to go up 13-3. Then it's halftime. Then Notre Dame, right out of the gate, first 20 seconds, kick return touchdown for Notre Dame to go up 17-3 at that point. They played really, really well, and this Notre Dame team, I think, is going to win the national championship. They advanced to play Penn State, which I think will be another really good matchup. And then, to review, Penn State defeats Boise State 31-14. Texas defeats Arizona State 39-31 in double overtime. Ohio State beats Oregon 41-21 in the Rose Bowl, and Notre Dame defeats Georgia in the Sugar Bowl in a defensive battle. So, to end off this episode, I got some shout-outs to give and a question of the week. So, the first shout-out goes out to Jack, who sent in his picks for the second round matchups. He got 2 right and 2 wrong. He had Arizona State over Texas, which was one he got wrong, and then he had Tennessee over Ohio State, he had Tennessee over Oregon, but Tennessee ended up losing to Ohio State. But then he did get the Penn State prediction right and the Notre Dame prediction right. And our second shout-out goes out to my friend Reed. He sent his predictions. He had Penn State over Boise State. He got that one right. He had Arizona State over Texas. Got that one wrong. He had Oregon over Ohio State. He got that one wrong. And then he had Georgia over Notre Dame. So he went 1 for 4. Shout out to Reed. Thank you guys for answering this week's question of the week. And for this week's question of the week, it is, what are your predictions for the semifinal matchups? Again, this week's question of the week is, what are your predictions for the semifinal matchups? These semifinal matchups include Texas versus Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl, and then Penn State versus Notre Dame. So again, you can send in your answer to this week's question of the week or previous question of the weeks to my email. My email is talksportswithmason@gmail.com. Again, my email is talksportswithmason@gmail.com. And as always, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you next time. Peace.